All right, Jason, on today's show, we're talking about managing people. And I want to ask you, because you managed dozens of employees at the multi-million-dollar company Elephant in the Room, is sales, management, accounting, what's the hardest part of running a company?
Management, hands down, is the hardest part.
Dr. Breck, you help people get their spine in line as a chiropractor. What's the hardest part of running your business?
Managing people every day.
Managing people every day. And on today's show, we are interviewing the management expert, Ryan Hawk. He's going to teach you how to become an effective manager and a manager that knows how to inspire people, to hold them accountable, to do what is required. All this and more on today's edition of the Thrive Time Show.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes! Thrive Nation, on this very special occasion, we are interviewing the man, the myth, the legend, the management mastery mentor for everybody out there, the author of the new book, Welcome to Management, How to Grow from Being a Top Performer to an Excellent Leader. Ryan Hawk, welcome onto the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Maybe one of the best intros of all time. I'm great. Thank you for having me.
I have a question. With the last name Hawk, did your friends in high school, did they call you the Hawkster, the Hawkinator? Was it and did they make hawk sounds when you entered the room? What kind of nicknames did you have as a kid?
We've got a little bit of all of that. Sometimes from we played football growing up, from the sidelines doing the kind of the swooping motion with your arms, like you're flying, Hawkman, Hawkster.
Yes.
People call my dad that. His friends call him that a lot, Hawkman. I notice they still do when he sees them. So he probably gets that as much or more than we do. But we're lucky. It's a cool last name. Your parents give you a 2-syllable, 1-syllable, kind of goes together okay. I did absolutely nothing to deserve that or earn that, but I'll take it, man.
What sports did you play in high school?
Football, baseball, and basketball.
What position did you play on the basketball court?
So I played quarterback in football, point guard in basketball, and I pitched and played shortstop in baseball.
Oh, yeah. I could sense that. You come across like an all-star. Okay, now tell me this here. When did what was life like growing up for you? Did you grow up kind of middle class? Did you grow up in suburbia, rural? What was life like growing up for you?
Yeah, we grew up in Central Ohio, which is like in the suburbs of Dayton, Ohio, home of the Wright brothers.
Yeah.
My parents certainly provided for us in a way that we were never wanting for anything. Always supported us both with what we needed to succeed on the playing field as well as what we needed at home. So yeah, very fortunate background that my mom and dad brought up. I'm in the middle of 3 brothers, 3 kids. I'm in the middle of an older and a younger brother. So
when did you figure out what you wanted to do professionally?
I don't know if I figured it out yet. I definitely. So my whole life leading up through college, it was all about playing sports. So my sole goal when I was in middle school and high school was to earn a college scholarship to play quarterback in Division I football. And so everything I did was focused on that. Everything I did when it came to my social life, my diet, my workouts, all of that was based on that. And so that happened, which was nice. But I didn't really plan for much after college. I planned then to hopefully continue playing after college, which I was fortunate enough to do for a few years, but did not do a great job of planning after that. So yeah, I was myopically focused on playing quarterback and being the best quarterback I could possibly be. And my parents supported that. My family supported that, knowing, I guess, that I would figure it out when I needed to. And so eventually I figured some things out. But I still think we're all, or at least I'm certainly a work in progress.
For the listeners out there that aren't super familiar with your college career, where did you play college football at?
So out of high school, I went to Miami University in the Mid-American Conference in Oxford, Ohio, which is near Cincinnati. And I was there for 2 seasons. I happened to be the exact same age and play the same position as another pretty good quarterback named Ben Roethlisberger. So Ben and I are the same age. We were in the same recruiting class at Miami. We battled it out for 2 years, and then for those who follow sports know the story. He eventually went on to be the greatest athlete in the history of Miami University, and has since donated millions of dollars to Miami University based on his great work in the National Football League, in the NFL, where he's won 2 Super Bowls, made hundreds of millions of dollars, and is just an incredible player. So after I lost that competition to Ben, I transferred to Ohio University, which is also in the Mid-American Conference, where I then played my final 2 years of eligibility. Played at Ohio University, played at least well enough to give me a shot to continuing playing after college, which was very brief stint in the Canadian Football League, and then 2 seasons in the Arena Football League, which is kind of a quarterback's dream because of the way the league is set up for high scoring and a lot of passing. So that's really the football story. After that, though, that's when I had to figure out what I was going to do with the rest of my life, because football was not going to continue to pay any sort of bills for me moving forward.
So how did you, what was your first real job after the Arena League career wrapped up in the professional football? What was your first real gig?
A company called LexisNexis, great Rex Caswell, VP of Telephonic Sales, was the guy who chose to take a chance on me, and I eventually moved into an outbound new business sales rep, making 60, 70, 80 cold calls a day, calling on law firms, so professional negotiators, trying to convince them why the solution that I was providing them would be better than what they were currently using. So I learned at a young age in my professional career the value of selling and what professional selling is all about. And so while it was very tough for me to stop playing sports, it was a pretty good transition, because there are some similarities in the world of professional selling and athletics, in the fact that the amount of work you're willing to put in will increase your odds of your output being greater. And that certainly was true for me, because I had absolutely no idea what I was doing at the beginning of my time as a professional salesperson. And through, using some of that work ethic I developed on the athletic fields and putting that into the professional world, it was helpful and beneficial, and that got my career jump started once my playing times were done.
Where were you based? What state were you in when you were making those calls?
Ohio. Ohio.
I anytime we have a listener on the show who loves cold calling or did cold calling, I just kind of like to bask in the glory of that just for a second, because seriously, I love cold calling. I mean, there's something dirty and great and awesome. I built my first company, DJConnection.com, into America's largest wedding entertainment company by just cold calling. Do you have any highlights of your cold calling career? Just because it is sweet. It's awesome.
Do you have like a board sitting next to you with all the great sound effects, or what's your setup over there?
Oh my gosh, dude! I've got a laser show. I mean, I'm a former disc jockey. I could, really, we could do whatever we want to do. Let's go. Whatever we need to do, we can do it. And I just
hold on. What was your cold call? Like, how did you cold call your way to building a successful business?
Oh, it was beautiful. What we did was, when I say me, is I was afraid of cold calling. And I was a pretty good athlete, but not anywhere near as good as you. But I was competitive, And I went and talked to an African-American man by the name of Clifton Talbert, who his life was made into a movie, by the way. If you're stuck at home right now, you should watch it. It's called Once Upon a Time When We Were Colored. He was the first African-American west of the Mississippi to open up a bank. And I knew him through people who knew him. And so I met him, and I'm like, Clifton, I'm afraid of making cold calls. I'm afraid. I'm like a, 18-year-old kid, grew up poor, and this is a guy who couldn't go into a bank because of he grew up in the time of legal segregation. So he says, Clay, I used to not be able to go into the front door of a bank. And that was kind of scary, going into the bank, walking down the street during the time of segregation. And he said it nicer than this, but it was something to the effect of, you're just weak.
Wow.
And he's not my boss. He was the guy that I was going to see him to get tips on how to overcome fear. And And he's like, look, man, I started a bank when racism was still very, very common. So you just got to make cold calls and know you're going to get rejected, and it's going to happen, and you have to get 100 no's for every yes. And he kind of just let me know the facts. And I came up with a strategy, which you shouldn't do this. If for anybody out there listening, don't do this. But my strategy was every time I got a rejection, I would give myself a beer, like a solid rejection. If I worked my way through the presentation and I got shut down.
A beer?
Oh, yeah, a beer, yeah. So it's like...
How blasted were you at the end of some of these days?
Well, by about 11 a.m., I was pretty blasted. And then all of a sudden, I started getting all these yeses because I didn't have any fear. You couldn't hear that I was a cold caller because I sounded so casual, And so I had a phone book, and I literally would cold call alphabetically. So a lot of my first commercial DJ gigs were apartments because it was alphabetically in the phone book. And I would call, and after about 2 beers with no food, at about 10 a.m., I would say, so who's in charge of this year's Christmas party, of our Christmas party? And they'd go, oh, that's Sharon. I'm like, okay, great. Can I talk to Sharon? And then I'd be on the phone with Sharon. And Sharon, hey, this is Clay, and I'm a DJ, and I understand you had a DJ last year. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good was he? If 10 was great and 1's terrible. And she's like, oh, he was a 5 or a 7. I'm like, well, what does a 10 look like? And she's like, well, a 10 would be this and that, and boom, boom, boom. I said, well, here's the deal. I've got a guarantee going right now. I'll DJ your party for $1, and you don't have to pay me my full price unless I'm good. So you literally pay $1 to book me. And how much did you pay last year? And she's like, $600. Okay, well, I'll do it for 10% less. So I'm agreeing right now. If I'm awesome, you pay me $540. And she's like, are you kidding me? I'm like, no. And I booked Boeing the Boeing, big airplane manufacturers. I booked American Airlines. I booked apartment complexes, all while semi-buzzed or drunk. And then I realized I'm drinking a lot before noon. I got to stop. So then I wasn't as scared as much because I got a little momentum there, Ryan. I got a little bit of momentum and some confidence. And then my new game was any time that I booked an appointment, I would call in this talk radio show as a sports talk radio show, and I would wait on hold on the other line, and I would call in and just say things that weren't true to upset fan groups. And so I would call in and make allegations about Oklahoma State or OU and kind of sound like a redneck with my voice, and it would irritate people, and it would get me excited. So that's what I did. That was my move, and now I don't do any of those things, but that's how I did it.
Well, isn't it great though that was kind of like the foundational way you had to get everything going, because now there's not many things in business harder than picking up the phone and calling somebody who isn't expecting your call.
Yeah.
And so I am so grateful. Like, if I would have known maybe how hard it was, I'm not sure if I would have signed up for it. I mean, I don't know. I didn't have a ton of options at that time, but I'm really glad that the foundation of my selling career started through having to make all of those calls and face so much rejection every single day.
Yes.
That going through that. So I tell all, like, when I meet with college kids, I say, learn to sell. Learn to speak in front of a group of people. Those are skills that will translate to literally anything that you can do, no matter what you're going to do in life. If you can develop selling skills, you will be better for it. If you can develop great communication skills, you will be better for it. So start practicing those things right now. And in the selling world, where my job was low base salary, but unlimited commission. So you could absolutely crush it if you were good, or you just had to live on a low salary and then you get fired.
Oh, yeah.
And so, like, I thought, like, you're literally gambling on yourself. You're betting on yourself every day. I love that, man. Like, I think that's the way the world should be. Like, so if I'm willing to go in on Saturdays and build scripts and meet with the 2 or 3 top performing reps in the entire country and convince them to try to help me, and so getting into, like, you asked me what were some of my secrets. I mean, this is one of the main things I did. On the very first week I was employed, I went to, again, the guy who took a chance on me, named Rex Caswell, still a friend to this day. And I said, who can I look at the stack rankings? And I looked at the names of everyone in the top 10 in the entire company. And I said, I don't know the protocol here, but can I reach out to each of them and ask to interview them?
Oh, yeah.
And I asked them, though, I go, I have some questions. Maybe you could help help me with some of these questions. So he added to those questions of the ones that I had, and just try. And so my goal, my purpose was, I'm going to go to each of them. I want to build a real relationship with top performers.
Yep.
I want to just embed myself with people who have figured some things out about this thing that I know nothing about.
Yep.
Then I want them to really deconstruct their process for me, and then I could take bits and pieces from all of those people, then mash that together with my personality, my work ethic, my thought process, and maybe I could become good at this thing. And then I asked a few of them, would you be willing to come in on the weekends when, the office was shut down, come in on the weekends and help me write email scripts, calling scripts. Okay, here is what when they're giving me the initial no, how do I respond? Oh, they're saying the no cost objection, or there's no trust, or whatever. I then was mapping all of that out from the jump, from the people who had already sustained excellence in this role. That then gave me some confidence, because it's like, okay, I can say these things, I can learn this stuff, and then it just becomes a repetition game, as you know, right? The more reps you get, and you're utilizing some of the best practices of all those people combined with your personality, and you get all the reps. That's like the purposeful practice aspect of it, and that's what was really helpful for me.
This is so powerful. I didn't plan on going here with the interview, but I have to go here for a second. This is so powerful. When you played football, and you threw so many passes, you threw so many passes, or when you're playing shortstop, you had done so many ground ball drills that you could tell by the way the ball would come off the bat kind of which way to go, and that initial split-second reaction would determine whether you got the double play or not, or whether you completed the pass or not. I mean, you practice till you can't get it wrong. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that? Because that is so important to practice your scripts and practice these role plays, because when the person tells you that initial objection, if you're still thinking about what to say, it's too slow. I mean, can you talk about that? Because that's powerful.
Well, I am a big believer. Like, I never was talented enough in any of the athletics and just to roll out the ball and play, as some would say, just to show up and play. I understood the value of practice because I was very lucky to have great coaching. And so to get the reps to where we created our muscle memory with how I ran the offense as the quarterback, or as you're mentioning, whether it's shooting free throws, getting ground balls, right? The repetition created confidence in me. And from whether you're selling or you're leading, or regardless of what you're doing, having confidence in yourself is a huge quality that we all need to develop. And confidence, I think, can be built through a combination of preparation, through then seeing that preparation lead to success, or in the selling world, lead to some yeses. And once you start feeling that, I'm always the one who asks why. Why was I successful? Why did I fail? Whatever it may be. Then I go into deconstruction mode, and that's why I have my podcast and everything that I do, of, okay, let's understand why somebody was successful. Let's really go deep onto their process, onto their daily actions, their habits, their routines, and their rituals. And so that I can say, wow, this is why I'm being successful. This is why it's working. The practice reps, what I was saying, how I was saying it, when I was saying it. And that built massive confidence. And you know how it is. Like, I can sense it in you from the very beginning. When you're speaking with a confident person, that, like, in a way gives you confidence. And if that confident person is selling you something,
truth,
and they're doing it in the right way, because the best salespeople, really what they are, they're the best helpers, right? You're helping somebody else achieve the results that they want, whether it's a nice car or you're providing a service to make them better at work or at home, whatever it is. The best salespeople are the best helpers. And if I sense that you're confident that you can help me, I'm going to feel some of that, and I'm going to say, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go with that solution, whatever that solution may be. So that's for me was a big deal, was that those reps, that practice, getting it in was what really gave me a huge amount of confidence, and people could sense that. And then that was kind of a self-propagating factor, like kept going on and on and on. And it made me feel better and better. And the better I got, the better I did. And I think that can be done through work ethic and through putting in the repetitions. The reason why it's not done by everybody is just because it's really hard, and you don't see results overnight. It takes time, and I think being able to have delayed gratification is a big skill to develop. And I probably developed that earlier in life through playing athletics.
We just interviewed the co-founder of Netflix 3 days ago, Mark Rudolph, and I gave him a mega point, and I'm going to give you a mega point. I don't give these out lightly. A mega point, it's a big thing. It's whenever you dropped so many knowledge bombs in a row, you get a mega point. So I don't give these out too lightly.
Did I get 2? Was that 2, or what was that?
Well, I just want to reaffirm the initial mega point. But you are on fire right now. My ears are just, I can't even handle. I just want to marinate on the goodness of this, folks. Listen, I'm telling you, folks. You know this because we try to interview some really good really good leaders. We've had the co-founder of Square on the show. We just had the co-founder of Square. We had the co-founder of Netflix on the show, and all top people can sell. Now, here's what's great about Ryan's new book. Is once you can sell well, by the way, if you can't sell, your business will go to hell. Someone should write that down. If you can't sell, your business will go to hell. Your ideas go to hell. But if you can sell well, now you have to learn how to grow from being a top performer to becoming a leader. Because all of a sudden, if you can sell well, now you've got to deliver on the solutions that you just sold. You have to manage people. You got to do accounting. You got to do payroll, human resources, hiring, firing, getting Carl to show up on time, getting Sarah to make the cold calls. Management is a huge problem. Once you can sell well, you got to learn how to manage. And tell us about your new book, because your book teaches people how to go from being a top performer to becoming an excellent leader. Tell us about the book.
Well, unfortunately, what happens is you typically, and this is the case in my career, because I was or spent the bulk of my time at the top or near the top of the stack rankings in the selling world, they come to you when there's a management opening and they'll say, okay, we're gonna grab the top 5 people and we're gonna interview you and we're gonna choose one of you to be the manager now because you were great at selling, so obviously you're going to be great at leading a team of salespeople. The problem, as you know, is that the skill it takes to be a great individual seller and the skill it takes to lead a team of 15 individual sellers are almost non-existent. There's so little that translates well. And a lot of companies, they're not bad companies for this, but they do an underwhelming job of preparing people to make that initial leap. I think, and I've also made the leap from individual contributor to manager, from manager to director, and then director to VP. So from leading individual contributors and then leading leaders. And what I found is that first leap is much harder and much more challenging than even the second or third leap that you're going to make in your career because it's just so dramatically different. And so when I got that first promotion, I really did a poor job of having an understanding of what it meant to actually lead a business team. I could lead a football team, but it was completely different. Now we're dealing with wildly different personalities, different ages, different backgrounds. My first week on the job, I'm 27. I'm sitting there like admiring my beautiful new office, right? Feeling kind of like I'm important now.
Yep.
Obviously I wasn't, but I was a mid-level manager, and at the door I see a 43-year-old mom of a few kids, and she's crying, and she slowly walks into my office, and again, it's the first week on the job.
Jeez.
And I'm sitting there thinking, what's happening here? And then she shuts the door and comes in crying and says, Ryan, my husband, he cheated on me and he wants a divorce. And yes, exactly.
That's what you want to hit the button, but you don't have the button. You're just there looking at her, and it's like, what choices did you make that put you in this situation? Like, why are you having to hear this? Right.
And I said, first of all, why are you telling me this?
Oh.
I would never tell my boss that, but it was like management lesson number 1.
Oh.
Not everybody's like you, man. Like it was a good moment for me to realize, like, man, I feel like I was self-centered. I wasn't thinking enough about others, and realize that everyone has different reasons. Like maybe she's telling me because in this case, she just wanted somebody to listen. She wanted someone to give her some sort of answers. Yep. She needed to take time off work. Like all these things are happening. And it's a great story and a reminder that it's hard to be prepared for those moments unless you've actually done the work before you get the job. And so the reason I wrote this book for this particular time in your career is to help those people who are in my exact position, who didn't do anything to prepare. And I wish I had some sort of playbook or a manual to read to help me get ready. And so because I didn't find that out there, I decided to write it. And that's why the book exists.
Now, and by the way, do you have a hard out here in 5 minutes, or can I keep you a little bit longer?
Sure.
This is something I want to do. You know how like in the weight room back in high school, you could put the 245s on each side and you'd bench, and the guy next to you is like, bruh, how much can you bench, bruh? And you go back and forth kind of one-upping each other because that's what men do in a locker room, in the football locker room. I'm going to attempt to one-up you with terrible management stories, and you one-up me, and we'll go back and forth there with a complete lack of empathy for the other person, okay? Because this is important because a lot of our listeners, they think when that situation you just mentioned happens to them, they're the only one who deals with it. So I'm going to start with a crazy story. Here we go. One of my employees tells me, she says, I'd like to meet with you, this is years ago. She says, I'd like to meet with your wife, Clay. My wife serves as our CFO for our company. She says, I'd like to meet with your wife because you have 5 kids. And I want to know how to become a better mom. I said, sure. She says, she goes, I just broke up with my girlfriend. She said, I just broke up with my girlfriend, and the guy that I'm living with, he's getting a divorce, and now I'm going to be raising his kids. So I wanted to see if your wife could give me tips. So again, I'm just make sure we're getting this idea. It's hard to grasp the idea. She's saying she's leaving the girl that she's been living with, her girlfriend. She just broke up with her girlfriend, so she is currently dating a female, and she is leaving her to move in with a married man, and she wants to know for tips on how to help raise his kids. And this woman was like 23, 22. And I said, how old are the kids? She says, well, the oldest is 18. And the story begins. That's the craziest that I have, and I had one person in the room with me to verify the jackassery of this situation. And so I tell my wife, I'm like, babe, you're going to be having like a Maury Povich session tomorrow. And I tried to explain to my wife the situation, but that's the kind of crap I've dealt with in the past and frequently as a manager. Give me something crazy. What's the craziest management situation you've dealt with in the past?
Oh God. I mean, I shared the main one, I would say, because I just think I don't know about you, but when I have a boss, like I am open with them, but not that much. It's mainly I've developed friendships with bosses, but where I'm willing to be vulnerable and share some things, but not like
Ryan,
to that level.
Ryan, can you see this rash?
What's that?
Ryan, can I show you my rash? What do you think it is?
Seriously.
It's crazy.
But I mean, so in a way though, the reason why it's important to kind of talk about these things is because you think, or okay, I shouldn't say you. I thought that everyone would just act like me, and that is I had 15 people on that first team, and realized there was legitimately 15 different styles and communication mannerisms and the way what they wanted to talk about and what they didn't, and desires for the future of their career, and they're all wildly different. And so you have to. It really helps develop some empathy and some compassion to be more others focused. And I remember I called my dad after that first meeting, and he's just like, "Welcome to management." Literally, that's what he said, and that's why I titled my book that, because there are so many of these kind of welcome to management moments that it's hard to know unless you've done some deep study and research and reading, or more likely unless you've actually done it. And so, like I said, my goal was either to help people who have not done it yet but want to, or help people who are maybe a year or 2 or 3 in, and they're thinking, oh my goodness, man, I'm just behind on how I did all this stuff, and this is helping me out. So it's a wild job that you don't fully get until you're in the middle of it, and I'm just trying to do my part to help with that.
Now, in your book, Welcome to Management, How to Grow from Top Performer to Excellent Leader, you do discuss the credibility that must be earned as a manager. So I'm just, folks, if you're out there listening today, and this is you, just take notes and go, he's talking about me. We've all had a manager, we've all had a new manager who's the always late guy. He says, Ryan, we're going to meet 9 o'clock in the morning. promptly. I'll be there at 9 o'clock tomorrow. We'll meet at 9 o'clock. And then at 9:07, everyone's waiting on the boss. Or, guys, starting next week, we're going to be really, we're going to start a new handbook, a new way of doing business. We're going to really be progressive. We're going to be, and then they magically forget to follow up on anything. Talk to me about how credibility is earned, because we've all had great bosses that do what they say they're going to do. They show up on time, and we've all had the idea of the weak boss who makes up ideas to mask the fact they didn't do anything. There's no follow-up. Talk to me. How do you build that credibility as a new manager?
Well, I think credibility is built on trust. And what trust is, the two characteristics that equal trust are character and competence. So character, right, doing what you say you're going to do, the integrity aspect of your character, and competence is actually knowing what you are talking about, and also not being afraid to say, I don't know, I need to get back to you on that, right? And so I found that my initial inclination was to have the answer for every question. And the problem with that is I obviously didn't know the answers to every question, but I thought that was part of my job. And it's not. Trying to be the chief answer officer when you're a new manager, you don't have to do that. I think you have to be true and authentic to yourself, understand your strength areas, and maybe utilize some of those strengths. So maybe you're better at specific aspects of, like, let's say running a meeting or writing or speaking, right? Lean into your strengths to show some of your competence, right? And then if obviously when it comes to the basic things like showing up early, being where you're supposed to be, following through with what you say that you're going to do. I guess it's more simple to say, harder to actually do. But for my upbringing, that was something that's been kind of ingrained in us since we were young kids, that you do what you say you're going to do. People, you need to be consistent, right? People need to be able to count on you, your family, your spouse, your kids, your team at work. So those things are almost just table stakes. You have to get those parts right when it comes to running a team. But understanding that you have to show them your character and you have to be competent in the areas of doing the job, or you're not really going to be able to build trust. And then without that, that's, again, foundational to how relationships are built. Without that, your chances of success are very small.
Now, I have found when it comes to managing people, you have to set a clear strategy. You know, whether we're talking about Proverbs or not, where there is no vision, the people perish. And I see a lot of leaders that really roll out, a lot of paperwork, a lot of handbooks, and they say, guys, here's the deal. Next quarter, we've got an 87-step strategic plan. And in this slide deck I want you to review over the weekend, it's going to unpack the 172 rules for implementing this plan. And we've all been in those meetings where your boss emails you huge PowerPoints, big slide decks. It's like the PowerPoint is their method of communication. They roll out these huge emails, and nobody actually reads those things. Nobody knows what's going on. Talk to me about how the listeners out there can develop a clear strategy, and does your book teach people how to develop a clear strategy?
I found, if you look in history, the word priority did not get pluralized until about 40 years ago. It was a singular word. There was a priority. And so I like to think about that when I'm rolling out any type of strategy or the tactics or the action plan to help make sure that strategy actually happens, right? The tactical aspect of it. If you roll out the 157 page slide deck and it's so comprehensive that no one's ever going to read it, again, if nobody reads it, then there's not clarity. If there's not clarity, then the execution is not going to happen. And so I like to think back to the fact that the word priority should be close to a singular topic. So what is your priority? And let's focus on that first, and then the tactics to go along with that. I have absolutely been in some of those meetings where I think they think more is better, when in almost every case, less is better. Especially when you're dealing with people, what they're going to read. You think about this with a book or a podcast or anything. What's the goal of a book? The goal of, or at least you're writing on the page of a book. My goal is to get you to turn the page. That's it. So if my writing is not good enough on page 29, you're going to put the book down. So I have to eliminate all of the fluff. The same with a podcast or whatever it may be. Your goal is to get them to listen for another minute. And then you have to continue to earn the right for them to listen to the next minute. Same way with a keynote speech on stage. I am earning the right for their attention basically on a minute by minute basis. And so that's a mindset shift though for most leaders. Most of them, not most, some of them think, well, I'm just going to dump everything on them. Here it is. Read it, follow it, do it, as opposed to gaining some focus on what is actually our priority, and then laying out some of the tactics in order to achieve it, and showing that specific person, that reader of that email, or that person sitting in that chair watching you deliver your priority, how are them, that one person, what is their role in helping our company, our team, our business accomplish the mission or the strategies, so that they know, okay, I know exactly what I'm supposed to do. My dad always said, you have to give each person vivid clarity on their specific role that helps you achieve the grand mission. And if you don't do that, you're doing a bad job as a leader. You have to do that. And you have to think of it from their perspective. And that's why this kind of others-focused, others-centered mentality is really critical to have any type of sustained excellence.
I find that managing people is very tough because it's almost a new way of life. Almost, you almost have to believe there are no bad listeners or no bad learners. There's just bad teachers, and you're the bad teacher. You have to believe that, like, if people don't get it done, if they drop the ball, it's your fault. But it can be easy to be mad at the people, right? It's easy, Ryan, if you tell somebody, do this system, follow this path, use this script, and they don't do it, it's easy to go, my people, these people, they freaking, but at the end of the day, you have to realize there's no bad employees, there's just bad bosses. Can you talk to me the balance of how because you really do have to believe that if the audience isn't getting it, it's because you're a bad teacher. How do you process that emotionally?
Well, I remember a time when I was a peer of mine, a really good guy, but he would come into our meetings, our leadership meetings with our VP, and he would say, listen, I'm telling them, I'm showing them, they're just not doing it. They will not work. They will not do it. And at that moment, I remember stopping and saying, like, I love you, man, but it's not them. It's us. It's we, which you're the leader of. So it's your team. So when you say they aren't doing it, you should say, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing my job. I never liked it when I hear a coach or a boss start saying they and then I, or they and me. It's us. It's we. So if your team is having success, right, I think it's fine to say, our team or our people, or they at some point, they work so hard, they're incredible, like giving them props when your team is successful. But when you're struggling, which is when real leaders step up, when real leadership is revealed, when you're struggling, if I hear this kind of I and them, I know that is a red flag for me going forward, or at least some serious coaching needs to happen with me to them, or with a senior leader to that person, to say, that's not how this works. I mean, ultimately, when you're the leader, it is you. It is your job. You have to take responsibility. It is your team. Even if you, and I write a section about this in the book, even if you are hired and you didn't hire a single person on your team, the instant you sign up for that job, they are your people. They are your team. They are your responsibility. And if you think, just give me a year or 6 months, I'm going to get rid of all these people and that's not how it works. That's not, you can't do that.
Yep.
Yes, you will probably make some changes. Occasionally people will leave, or you'll fire some and bring some in. But to make an excuse like, just wait, give me a year, give me a 2. No, that's not how it works. Like, that second, it's your job. It's your responsibility. You do everything you can to help those people be successful. That's your job. And I found that those are the types of leaders that I want to commit to. Those are the types that take that approach. Yes, some changes happen. All right, we all go through that. That's just a fact of life. But never should you be saying things like, they're just not doing it. They're not good. No, that's you. That's you. That's your responsibility. That's on you.
I have found that the leader is a good leader. a good manager is directly responsible for the results that the team produces within the organization.
Yep.
And the word organization is the word I'm using. And I have found it's very hard to be a good manager if you are disorganized. We've all had a boss, or maybe we've all been a boss who has been disorganized. Does your book at all talk about the importance of being organized, or could you give the listeners some tips on that? Because I see a lot of bosses that are saying, well, Karen, we'll start tomorrow's meeting around 9 or 2. Why don't you remind me? And then at 2 o'clock comes tomorrow. Well, Karen, when was that meeting supposed to be? And it's like they're you know what I mean? And then they tell their employees like, well, you guys can remind me, right? Because I'm just kind of more of a big vision guy. You know, I'm more of a. I mean, can you talk about this importance of being organized?
Well, I mean, it's again, I think that's kind of table stakes in order to be just a decent manager. I remember when I first got the job, I'm bringing up my dad a lot, but that's because he's a huge mentor in my life and remains so to this day. But when I first got the job, I was, excited. I was celebrating, and we talked on the phone, and I said, hey, my role with this team is to be the inspirational visionary to inspire them on the Monday morning meetings and with my great emails, right? When it comes to kind of the management and detailed stuff and some of the metrics and the numbers, I will get somebody else to help with that part. I'll get somebody else to do that for me. And my dad, who's one of the nicest humans in the world, but has moments when he gets very serious with me, he stopped me right in my tracks and said, What are you talking about? That is your job.
Come on now.
In fact, you have to do all three of these things if you want to be successful in your role. I said, what's that? He goes, you have to lead, you have to manage, and you must be a coach. You've got to do all three. You've got to do all three. And I think that part of it, the organization and the focus, is part of what it means to be a manager, to have things like to understand how to use a calendar, to understand how to create buffers in your schedule so that you are never late to a meeting, so that you never miss with one of your people, so that you consistently show up. It's just like being a parent, right? One of the keys to parenting is that you physically show up. Your presence is required, right? So all those things are part of it. And if you can't deliver on some of the basic aspects of staying organized, being where you say you're going to be, showing up for your people, again, very low chance of you having any sort of excellence in your role.
How do you organize the first 4 hours of your day? I mean, for you personally there, like what time, are you waking up there every day? And then how do you organize the first 4 hours of your day, Mr. Reinhawk?
The plan is always done at a minimum of the day before. So my calendar is set the day before. So I am also married. We also have 5 children. So
wow, 5 kids. Five kids?
Yes. And
really?
So in order for me to get the alone time I need, as well as the physical time I need, because I again have not lost kind of the physical aspect of working out, I like to do that every day. So I have to get up far earlier than my family, so that nobody's neglected or anything, but I can get up and have my own time to myself to read, to journal, to get hydrated, and to work out. And that's the first part of every single one of my days, 7 days a week. And then I can get on to the day, whether it's, work day, which consists of recording podcasts, writing, speaking when we're, in traveling mode, and running leadership circles, which is what I do on a daily basis. And so that's the work part. But I'm planning that and mapping that on my calendar, and having a note-taking system, both using the whole G Suite. So I'm big on Google Docs, Drive, and Keep. So Keep's for all the articles that I want to read at a later date. Drive is for all of my audio and video work that I have there that I can share easily with other people. And Docs are my own writings, some of the notes I take. All my preparation for my podcast are done in Docs, so I can pull that up on any device at any time, and also go write on those devices at any time from anywhere. And that then kind of is my structure and the system I have in place to stay organized, to stay on task. I'm big into using my calendar. It's always up to date and ready to go. I share that with my business partners and people who know me so they can see exactly what I'm doing, when I'm doing it, and when they can get a hold of me if they need me, or when to leave me alone. And I think that is kind of sets it up so that I can get work done on a daily basis.
And I'm just very interested in all things Ryan Hawk here. This is great. And it's great because I'm interviewing you, which is really incredible. So you have 5 kids. You are a former athlete. You how many people do you personally have to manage now? Like, how many people do you lead at this point? Do you have to keep track of?
Well, it depends. I mean, nobody reports to me. I run my own show for what I do. So technically nobody. But I view my clients and the people I work with in that regard, but it's technically not set up that way because they're clients.
This makes sense. And do you what is your opinion of Adam Sandler movies?
Well, it depends on which Adam Sandler movie you're talking about.
Okay, fine. We'll dip our toe into the water of all things Adam Sandler. Mr. Deeds.
I'm a big Dave Matthews Band fan. I remember one of his songs in that movie. It's okay. If you want to go straight to it, I mean, I would say Happy Gilmore is number 1, and Billy Madison's probably number 2, unless I'm forgetting something. Go ahead. What was your other Adam Sandler's question?
So Adam Sandler. So we go Happy Gilmore. We go Mr. Deeds. That's great.
No, Billy Madison. Yeah.
Billy Madison. Okay. What do you think about the format of where he does? He starts off with like kind of it's a guy who's kind of impossibly simple. He's going after an impossibly gorgeous woman, and somehow there's athletes and cameo appearances by Brett Favre and Dave Matthews. What do you think about his movie formats? The system.
He's figured something out.
Yeah.
Because a lot of I haven't even watched. I don't know if I've even watched the Netflix movies, but I think he's made $500 million.
Yes,
from
good
Netflix.
Job. Yeah.
So I would say he's figured something out that maybe other people should look at, and I think he is authentic and genuine, and people seem to be drawn to that. And because like I said, my favorite movies they're old now.
Yeah.
They're not even recent. Yeah, the one that he was with Jennifer Aniston, I forget even the name of that movie. That one's decent. That plays on like TNT and random shows. But yeah, he's figured some things out.
Have you seen him playing basketball recently? Have you seen him playing basketball?
No.
For a good time today, I'm just telling you.
Is he good?
It's worth at least a 45-second YouTube search.
So he must not be good.
No. For fun, he goes out and just plays random pickup ball. But he doesn't tell people like, hey, guys, I'm Adam Sandler. He just shows up. And so over time, like soccer moms will pull out their phone and start filming like, oh, my gosh, that's Adam Sandler. And he's not good, but he's out there balling, and it is the best thing ever.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it. It's just like when you see somebody who can't dance, but they go out and dance. I'm like, hey, good for them.
No, he owns it.
That shows some confidence, like at a wedding or something, and you're looking, and sometimes you're just like, oh, okay, nice, man. Like props. I'm down for that.
Now I have some audio clips I'm going to play. I have 3 audio clips I'm going to play. This is audio of what I perceive to be. I got with my team and we recorded audio, kind of a spoof of management, let's say. And I'd like for you to explain what this person's doing wrong. Okay, so I'm going to cue up the audio. And it's a pop quiz. I got 3 audio clips. I'm going to play it for you. You tell me what this manager is doing incorrectly, because you're a management expert, and I know the listeners out there want to go buy your book right now, Welcome to Management, but you have to pass this test before we can buy the book. So here we go. Let me play the first audio clip. Here we go. Let me cue it up. Here we go. It's going to happen.
All right. Guys, I've been to the mountaintop, and I got something to say, all right? I'm unveiling the new long-term profit goal. Are you guys ready for this? Drum roll, please. This is going to blow your mind, okay? This is what we're going to do. This is good.
$30 million? There's only 2 of us.
We made $63,000 in gross sales last year. That's everything.
Okay, look, I'm a visionary. Okay, what you're witnessing right here, this is leadership. I'm looking at where we're going to be 20, 30, 40, 50 years from now. Did Henry Fonda, when he invented the Model T, were they sitting around going, how are we going to build this car? No, okay? They got their hands dirty, they grabbed the bull by the horns, and then they killed it.
Okay, so what's the plan?
Step 1, okay? We're going to maximize efficiency. Number 2, write this down. Number 2, Step 3, emulsification. Listen, if you guys follow those steps, We're going to hit our goal by the winter of 2032. Okay, what an incredible Christmas that'll be. All right, so you guys know what you're doing?
No.
Awesome. All right, I'm going to hit the links. Ooh, Daddy likes.
What is that guy doing wrong? Because this is so common. This is what management looks like out there. What is he doing wrong?
What is he doing right? Any part?
I mean, I just see a lot of people going into their staff meetings without a plan, talking about how they're going to go golf, setting crazy goals, and then using big words like emulsification. I mean, I see this all the time. Why does this happen?
Well, I think maybe he thinks it sounds smart. I mean, I have a hard time believing. I've seen like bits and pieces of that, but that is obviously an overly dramatic version of what we see. I've actually was a part of a meeting semi-recently where I was speaking after the senior leader rolled out this new goal, this growth goal. And the growth goal was like 10 times what had ever been done in the history of the business.
Yes.
And then there was like 5 reasons as to why they could do it. And 4.5 of those reasons made absolutely no sense. And then I was to follow that person. And I remember the looks on their faces, because I try to like scan the room before I go up to see like the feeling of the people in the room. They're like looking on LinkedIn for other jobs, like right. What are we doing here? Obviously, yeah, like setting an insane goal with absolutely no plan in place to hit it. All it's going to do is the people who are good, well, really everybody who's involved in that company, they're just going to do what's bad is they'll just start looking for another job. And then once they find that other job, they'll do it. But they'll still stay in the role for your team until they find that job. And sometimes it takes time. So then they're just sitting in a chair, not really doing what they need to do. So yeah, that's obviously setting a goal with no plan. Your team has no idea how to get to that goal. And you just blow them off. Normally the guy, though, wouldn't say, I'm going to go hit the links. The guy may go hit the links, but he's not going to say that in the meeting.
Now, so your book, though, will teach people how to set clear goals. Your book will teach people
absolutely. I mean, that's a big part of what leadership is all about is setting. Because I worked in the world of selling, like we were always on this push and pull of the goal setting and what makes sense, and let's be aggressive but reasonable, and then the daily tactics to put in place for individuals to actually achieve the goals.
Yep.
If you don't have that there's not like a clear path or clarity on how I can actually do it, right? Which was the bad part of that clip. Questions? Yes. Know what to do? No. Okay. All right. See you later. Like obviously that's part of your job as a leader is to give a vivid clarity on how to actually achieve those goals.
Now this is I guess I have my final 2 clips here. I want to respect your time. Final 2 clips. This is the scene here is you have a guy from corporate coming in to hold people accountable to certain standards. Let me cue up the audio. Here we go.
Where is she? Where's my favorite franchise owner? Hey, there she is.
There.
How are you?
Hi.
Hey. Oh. I'm Zach Matthews, corporate liaison for How the Cookie Crumbles. Job number 1, make the franchise owner feel special. Man, it's good to see you, Kim.
It's Karen, you know that.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I'm just testing you.
Yeah.
I was testing you.
You even test me on my own name.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We love it when corporate comes around.
That's a violation. That's a violation there.
He's really helpful.
I had a question about that.
Next time, just email me, okay?
He has a real eye for details, That's why we love him.
Oh boy, paper. I protect the brand. I'm a brand protector. We don't sell the other guy's cookies at How the Cookie Crumbles. We sell How the Cookie Crumbles cookies at How the Cookie Crumbles. And the height's wrong, too. I mean, we're almost an inch high. This is our cookie, okay? This is the other guy's cookie. Our cookie, their cookie. It's that difference. Worthless. And that makes all the difference in the world. Tastes delicious, though.
I love the brand. Sometimes I just wonder if they have any experience behind a counter. Have they ever managed a store? I don't know.
Keep pushing. Appreciate you.
talk to me about the condescending manager. Does your book help people out there that maybe unintentionally are the condescending manager?
Yes, unfortunately though, there's a big part of the book about self-awareness in the first section on leading yourself and developing self-awareness to hopefully that you have placed people in your life, or you can become more intentional about placing people in your life, that if you are somehow unknowingly acting in this manner, that those people can deliver the honest, raw feedback to help you avoid doing that moving forward. But it still takes some awareness to put those people in your life that you can trust to help you, because none of us are perfect. We all make mistakes. And what it's about is, who are those people? Who are those people in your life that are there to help you in that regard? And my urging to everyone is to be much more intentional, if you're not already, about having a mentor board of advisors, right? This board of advisors that you can go to, maybe even invite them to your meetings, invite them to some of your one-on-ones, role play ideas when it comes to this is how we communicate, or check out this email, or check out this rollout I'm getting ready to deliver, and then watch me deliver it, so that they can say, hey, you know what? Do you realize that the way that you talk to your team is condescending to you? And so sometimes we need other people to help us. You'd hope somebody just would naturally not act in that manner, but that's not always the case. I mean, that actually exists. So I think it's really important to increase your levels of self-awareness is to surround yourself with others to help you do that.
Now, final clip I want to play for you. This is a clip here. A lot of people confuse management with motivation. They think that management is just motivating people. So let me cue up audio of a manager who believes that management is motivation. Here we go.
This is not a get-rich-quick scheme, okay? This is a get-filthy-rich-quick scheme, okay?
So talk to me about that. It's like the boss who comes in and talks about getting filthy rich real quick. They're always about the new idea of the week, the how to talk to me about that motivational. Why is that so dangerous if that's what you perceive management to be?
Some of these though are so far out. I'm just thinking, if you actually found yourself in these situations, hopefully you could find a way to get to a different one. But I understand there's some of it that does somehow still happen. Yep. Motivation, as a leader, I think motivation is intrinsic. It comes from within. I think leaders can inspire, but motivation is something that's innately within you. And so we look to hire people who are self-starters, who are motivated from within. It's motivation. It's hard to sustain that. Also, I think those types of, I guess if you'd say tactics, if I'm going to roll something new out, they're going to base how hard they're going to go after it on my history and my track record and how I've been in the past and their experiences with me. So I just think those things typically, maybe some of them can work in the short term for a few people, but I'm always trying to play the long game. And I think with my team that stuff just doesn't seem to be beneficial. And my work is going to be based on my track record and how I followed through on what I've said I'm going to do and what I commit to. And people are going to choose to commit to leaders who they trust and they believe in versus the ones that they comply to, right? Sometimes you'll comply to a boss if you have to, until you find somebody that you'd rather commit to. And that's why I've said multiple times, compliance can be commanded, but commitment cannot. And I'm trying to help people build committed teams, not compliant ones.
Ryan, I appreciate you so much for being on the show. And if you're out there today, folks, pick up a copy of Welcome to Management, How to Grow from Top Performer to Excellent Leader. Somebody out there saying, I have carpal tunnel. I don't know if I can click it. Stop it. Go pick up the book right now. Get the book right now. Welcome to Management, How to Grow from Top Performer to Excellent Leader. If you struggle with management, and by the way, a lot of people do, this is an absolute treasure trove of specific best practice management super moves that you can use. But Ryan, what's a website where people can go to learn more about you?
Go to learningleader.com. Everything I have is at learningleader.com. My podcast has been going on for the past 5 years, the Learning Leader Show, and everything's there. Or if you're listening to this on your phone, you can text the word learners to 44222, and that will get you all of my stuff for free.
Now, Thrivers, here's a little bonus gift for you. Ryan is a beautiful man. Now, he's taken, but I'm just telling you, for all the ladies out there, it's like free eye candy, and you can check out his website. It's all right there. Ryan Hawk, thank you so much for being on the show, my friend. You are a great American and an absolutely sensational guest. It has been a laser show having you here. Thank you so much.
I need to bring you along with me to play your sound effects after I say something profound. I love it. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, you take care.
All right.
All right, Thrive Nation, that was Ryan Hawk, and his book is Welcome to Management, How to Grow from a Top Performer to an Excellent Leader. Check out the book today, Welcome to Management. Get it anywhere that books are sold, or at this point, any place where you can actually buy a book right now. You can probably buy the book on Amazon, but you probably won't have a lot of luck if you go to Barnes & Noble in your local community, because it's probably not open right now due to the government shutdown. And so I thought we would end today's show by interviewing a wonderful thriver out there by the name of Corey. His name is Corey Taylor, and he is based in the New York City area. He lives in New York City. He's a friend of one of our Thrive Time show guests, the senior editor for Forbes magazine. Zach O'Malley Greenberg is Corey's good friend, and he told me, hey, you should interview Corey so Corey could share with the listeners what it's like to live right now in the government shutdown New York City. And so now, without any further ado, we go to our interview with Corey Taylor, based right here in New York City. Many of you from coast to coast are quarantined. Some of you are stuck in your apartments. Some of you are stuck in your basements. Some of you are stuck in your suburban sprawl. But today's guest is a thriver out there who's trying to navigate his way through this coronavirus panic. And I thought this would be a great way for you, the Thrive Nation, to hear firsthand from somebody who's battling through this. Corey Taylor, welcome onto the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
Hey, thanks. I'm in my bunker, too.
Where is your bunker? Where are you bunkered?
Long Island, New York.
Okay. So you are Long Island, New York. How long have you been quarantined so far?
Well, I'm not really quarantined. I have to tell you the truth about this. I'm actually going back and forth as my girlfriend lives in New York City, but since I drive in and don't really stop anywhere or do anything, it's safe to do that. Otherwise, in the old days, I would often take the train, which I wouldn't do these days. So I'm kind of a half and half. I'm doing half the week at home and kind of the weekends with her. And so I'm actually seeing both worlds, and it's very different what's happening, because being in the suburbs during the week, and I'm sure a lot of people that hear this are going to really understand what I'm saying. If you drive around, you see less people, and of course less things open, but there are people around, they're driving. New York City reminds me right now of a Twilight Zone episode. It is eerie, and that's the best word and the best way I can describe it, totally eerie.
And now, what did you do, what kind of occupation were you doing before the shutdown?
So I have a company called Food on Foot Tours, mostly tourists. We don't do a lot of locals, although hopefully after this we can pivot that way a little bit. But we basically take people around to places to eat in New York City that are not the tourist places, but they're also not full restaurants. We do things like pizza, bakeries, falafel, ice cream, hot dogs, those kind of small places, but kind of really great places. The food that we do is just, it's lowbrow, but really good lowbrow.
Now, your mutual friend, our mutual friend, Zach O'Malley Greenberg with Forbes, he told me that you guys are like brothers almost. Or you know him very well. How did you first meet Zach O'Malley Greenberg?
Well, I'm a little bit older than Zach, so let me put it to you that way. 26 years ago, when Zach was just a wee little boy, I was really good friends. I continued to be really good friends with his mom's now ex-boyfriend. And at the time, we had started a fantasy league, and for those who miss sports, Of course, a lot of people are involved in fantasy probably missed that part of it. But we started a fantasy baseball league a couple of years before I met Zach. I am proud to say that we're coming up on 30 years, and we are the same group of people together, basically unchanged except for maybe one or two people. We're the same group, and we've been together for 30 years. So we're missing that. But it's a great story because what happened is Zach was about 8 at the time. And so I get this call from my friend who, again, was going out with his mom, and he said, so my girlfriend's son really would like to join your fantasy league. Is that okay? I said, how old is he? And he says 8 years old or 9, whatever it was at the time. And I said, I don't know. I don't know. We have room for one more team, but I don't really know if we want an 8 or 9-year-old in the league. I said, are you willing to help him? And he said, yeah, that's fine. I'm willing to help him. Well, to give you the short version of a 30-year-old or 25-year-old story, Zach has become the bane of the rest of us for the last 25 years, has now won more championships than anybody else. So, yes, we're very close, and that's Zach.
So I got to ask you all about this this shutdown here. You've lived in New York for a long time. You've in the area in your whole life. So let's go September 11th. The day that will live in infamy. The day the terrorists commandeered airplanes and drove them right into the Twin Towers. Compare the day that the towers were hit by the planes versus now. What just compare, contrast. I'd love to hear your take on this.
That's actually a great question. So back then, I think there was a pall over everybody. Everybody knew somebody that was affected by the towers being hit, whether you knew someone directly or whether you knew somebody who lost somebody or knew somebody. In my case, I know 2 people that got out of the building that morning. I also subsequently have met people that were either in the building or knew someone or close family over the years. So there was a pall over the whole metropolitan area, and it was almost like a group mourning. I don't really know how to describe it. I know I just was non-functional. And again, I didn't know anybody directly, but as a New Yorker, I was pretty much just non-functional, just looking at the television all the time. I was in the suburbs. I did not venture into the city at that point. And that was the way it was, just a pall. And at the time I was working for a cable TV company, and we basically were told no work for 2 weeks. I was involved in the sales collections in those days. We were basically told no work for 2 weeks, just stay home, and that was it. So it was a very different feeling, almost like somebody died. Like, even though many died, it was almost like you knew someone that died directly, even if you didn't. This is just so different because it's total uncertainty. The city is basically shut down. The city came back to normal rather quickly, at least away from downtown. Within a week or so, 2 weeks, people were back. I think now the uncertainty is the big difference between now and then. Nobody really knows when or how this is going to happen. There are a lot of theories and people going back little by little, but New York is a compact place. I mean, how are they going to do this? And I don't even think the people that are going to make those decisions are actually even sure about that right now.
What is your take on the quarantine? And before I ask you for your take, I want to walk the listeners through a timeline. And you probably already know this there, Corey, and I'm not going to give you my editorial. I'm just going to give you the facts. But a guy by the name of Neil Ferguson. Are you familiar with Neil Ferguson? Have you guys heard about Neil Ferguson?
No, the name sounds familiar, but no, maybe if you tell me, I'm not sure.
Okay. Well, I'm going to cue up some audio clips just to kind of let you know. I've spent an unhealthy amount of time looking all this stuff up, okay? So Neil Ferguson is the gentleman who is the scientist who currently is employed. He's the director of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics at the Imperial College. Neil Ferguson predicted 2.2 million American deaths and 500,000 British deaths. That was the initial prediction. And then we have Dr. Deborah Birx, who works with the White House. This is Dr. Deborah Birx commenting on the predictions. Let me cue up the audio real quick here.
Out of the UK. I'm sure many of you saw the recent report out of the UK.
She's referencing the Neil Ferguson report.
About them adjusting completely their needs. This is really quite important. If you remember, that was the report that said there would be 500,000 deaths in the UK and 2.2 million deaths in the United States. They've adjusted that number in the UK to 20,000. So 500,000 to 20,000. We're looking into this.
So the initial report reported 2.2 million deaths were likely to occur, according to Neil Ferguson. 500,000 folks in the UK were predicted to die. Now they've brought that down to about 1/23 of the initial predictions, 1/25 of the initial predictions. Governor Cuomo then, per the recommendation of Dr. Deborah Birx, decided to shut down New York.
I think the
Here's
smartest
Cuomo.
way forward is a modified public health strategy that dovetails and complements a get back to work strategy, right? What we did was we closed everything down. That was our public health strategy. Just close everything. All businesses, all workers, young people, old people, short people, tall people, every school, close everything. If you rethought that or had time to analyze that public health strategy, I don't know that you would say quarantine everyone. I don't even know that that was the best public health policy. Young people then quarantined with older people was probably not the best public health strategy because the younger people could have been exposing the older people to an infection. So how do you modify the public health strategy to make it smarter from a public health point of view, but also starts to get you back to work? Younger people can go back to work. People who have resolved can go back to work. People who, once we get this antibody test, showed that they had the virus and they resolved can go back to work.
Okay, so again, the timeline, Neil Ferguson predicts 2.2 million American deaths. Then Dr. Deborah Birx says, hey, you probably saw the report. We've dialed that report back to 1/23 to 1/25 of what we were projected. Governor Cuomo just came out and said perhaps that wasn't the best strategy. And then finally, you have President Trump here. This is President Trump approximately 1 week ago explaining why he decided to shut the country down. Let me cue up the audio here.
4 weeks ago, we had the greatest economy in the history of the world, the greatest in the world, greatest in the history of the world. We had the most jobs ever in the history of the United States, almost 160 million jobs, right? And then one day, I get a call from Deborah, who's fantastic.
Deborah Birx.
And from Dr. Fauci. And he said, and she said, we have a problem. I said, what's the problem? And they said, we may have to close it up. I said, close what up? They said, close up the country. I said, what's that all about?
And so there we are. So now that we know kind of the timeline, Neil Ferguson predicted he predicted 2.2 million American deaths. Dr. Deborah Birx shared that report, has now told us that 1/23 to 1/25 as many people are projected to die. Governor Cuomo has told us perhaps the best public-private policy, health policy, wasn't to shut everything down. President Trump is saying Dr. Deborah Birx told him to shut the economy down. What is your take, Corey Taylor? And I'm not looking for a right or wrong. I just want to get your take. You're on the ground. You live out there. What's your take?
So we can't really change the past. We are where we are. And what I think is going to happen is I think they're going to bring people back slowly, and I think they're not going to do a lot of bringing people back until they have a lot more testing going on, because New York's just a compact place. And if you go back too early, you're going to run the risk again of bringing the virus back or the virus coming back. So I think they're going to kind of roll this out. I think that companies that can have their workers at home are going to do that for a while and probably be the last ones to go back. I think the biggest thing in New York right now is the entertainment and the restaurant industry, even maybe more than the entertainment industry. Broadway probably will come back with no problem. But there's a real danger of New York being a very, very different place because restaurants are just devastated. A lot of them will not survive this, and we may lose a lot of local places, which will be the first ones to go. And in my business as a food tour guy, that's going to be a tough pill to swallow. So I think this is going to change things for a long time.
Is there anything positive that you're seeing there in New York at this time?
For those people that are listening that don't know, every night at 7 o'clock in New York City, everybody opens their apartment windows and cheers for 2 minutes, or about 2 minutes, and makes noise and just to support the healthcare workers. And it's a heartwarming, it's a wonderful thing to hear and see. It's fantastic.
I've got audio here. We have a New Yorker by the name of James. He is an attorney in New York, in Manhattan there. His website is dclfirm.com, dclfirm.com. He is an actual attorney. He sent me audio for today's show. Let me cue up audio here. This is the 7 o'clock salute, I believe. This goes on for 2 minutes every night at 7. Is that correct?
Yeah, about 2 minutes.
Okay, let me cue up audio. It's unbelievable. Let me cue it up here. Let me get the audio cranked up, and away we go. I think I can hear you. Wow. Now, we are going to get through this. We are going to get to the other side of this. And when we do, I know our listeners want to buy some stuff from you. So tell us about your website. Tell us what you do. Tell us all the services you offer, because I think this might be a home run for somebody out there who wants to go back to New York after this craziness is behind us.
All right. Well, if you do come to New York, look us up, foodonfoottours.com, and we do tours all over the city. We can do private tours, we do public tours, we do group tours. If you're coming in with a group, if anybody's coming in with a school group or anything along those lines, or any type of group, we actually do something called a Gourmet New York Tasting, which is we have a deal with the leading food hall in New York City, the leading food hall company in New York City, and we actually do events where instead of going to a restaurant, we bring groups in, and the groups are able to get script or market dollars, or basically fake money, and able to go to any vendors they want in the food hall. And it's what makes this such a great experience is people are getting to try really great New York food. These are all it's not a mall food court type of thing. It's real New York vendors, and people getting to try great food. And we give you guaranteed seating, which for a group in New York City is great. A lot of the groups have to wind up at chain restaurants because a lot of the restaurants, and that it's going to get worse, of course, but a lot of the restaurants just don't have group size or size to do big groups. So, I'm trying to stay optimistic. I mean, people will come back. People are going to come back to New York. There's going to be changes, and I don't think if anybody said to you today, I can tell you what those changes are, I don't think they can. I don't think anybody exactly knows what's going to happen, but like 9/11, New York always bounces back.
Now, how are you feeding yourself right now? I mean, because obviously the checks that are supposed to go out right away, ASAP, the head of the Small Business Administration said, the same-day funding. You're hearing politicians talk about their checks are on the way. They're being processed right away. The unemployment checks, the Paycheck Protection Program checks are going out. Yet I don't know a single person who has received the checks yet. Have you received your check yet as of April 7th?
No, I actually haven't applied yet. As somebody who's self-employed, as you just mentioned, supposedly I will be eligible for the unemployment program. But the New York State website, New York has had so many applications that they've had problems with the website. Supposedly it's now been mostly taken care of and updated. And they've put in a system where, based on your last name, you can only apply on certain days. So actually my day comes tomorrow. And, I will hopefully apply and be able to get through, but they are backdating it and just surviving on savings at this point.
Man, Corey, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us, my friend, because I know you got a lot going on there, and it's a difficult time. But again, thank you for letting our listeners get a first, a look into what you're dealing with, because I think this really does help to put it in perspective how things are unfolding here. And again, I really do appreciate your time.
Well, we can end this on one smile note.
Oh, yeah.
I will tell you, you might not have to use the term busy schedule.
Thank you for joining us with a schedule filled with vast openings and nothingness. And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!
boom.